Dudes to Dads, brought to you by Dad University, is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Alan, how are you?
I'm great.
I was trying to think of something really interesting to say, and I just said, it's our 175th episode. I'll just say the same thing I've been doing for the 174 of them. Today's episode is called Is Drinking Alcohol Around Your Kids Okay? What are your thoughts on that, like your initial thoughts?
So I'm a big fan of moderation, and I might
except with alcohol.
Except with alcohol, I just go way overboard. No, which is kind of true actually, but I don't have kids so right now. So, right. But that being said, I think with moderation, in being around family members that maybe got a few drinks when I was a kid or whatever, just don't get drunk. Like you can have a drink or two. They've seen you drink with dinner and have a social hour with your friends. I feel like that's okay. But I've seen the opposite of that where, full disclosure, I had he's probably not listening to it, but like a stepdad from a long time ago who'd get kind of sloppy drunk and it was not fun to be around.
Right.
And not even because he was abusive or whatever. It's just because.
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at that too. I mean, we're looking at it from the parenting standpoint of, you saying it wasn't fun to be around. That's one. Yeah. The other is teaching the child their relationship with alcohol. Yeah. And so that's what we want to talk about is there's multiple parts of it. And so, at least I can say in America, I can't say, for other countries.
Good point. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. Alcohol is a big part of our society. It is. And it is around the world, but I only know more about America. Right. I haven't been to a lot of places. It's part of celebrations and parties and holidays and even relaxation, when you think of relaxing or vacations or whatever. Yeah. So that's one part of it, and that it is, pretty ingrained with us. The other, it's big business. Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah. So in the U.S. in 2016, alcohol beverage sales were approximately $223 billion. Okay?
I believe it.
So that's one thing. And I'm providing these stats to kind of just understand and provide some context of how big alcohol is. Yeah. Like it's just so, like I said, just such a big part. It's also the third largest preventable cause of death in the U.S. So,
gotcha.
Preventable. Yeah. Yeah, like smoking, drinking. Approximately 88,000 people per year die of alcohol-related deaths.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So this episode isn't, I don't want to talk about the dangers of alcohol or whether, you should even drink or not. Like that's your own personal decision. But it's really about, is it okay to drink around your kids? And if so, what do we do about it?
Sure.
If you are deciding to drink, what's some options for you?
Party responsibly.
Correct. So in doing this and researching, what I found was the most important, or I should say the most impactful thing seemed to be the attitude towards the alcohol. So the parent's attitude towards the alcohol is what had an effect on how the child will see it or how the child will perceive it. So I'll give you a few scenarios as an example. You come home from work and you say, oh man, what a day. I could really use a drink right now. Okay, so put that in your mind. Yep. The second one, you're having a party at your house. Your child sees you drinking numerous drinks over and over. By the end of the night, you're drunk.
Right.
So in that first scenario, you're saying, man, I could really use a drink. You're using alcohol as a reward. Yeah. And that's considered a negative thing. So and I'm going to get to how you do it. Like to still be able to do that.
Yeah, right.
If you feel like you need a drink, I'm not saying you shouldn't. Yeah. Although you shouldn't, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's different ways of dealing with it. Yeah. And so if we're using it as that reward, the other way is when you're having the party, you're using it in celebration. And that's what runs pretty deep. Now, okay, you're using it in celebration, but we kind of want to teach our children a little bit more healthier association of alcohol, and that's certainly going to take some effort. So, the idea that you can celebrate and you're happy and you're enjoying something, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that we are always using alcohol to celebrate it is where there's that disconnect, where we want to make that disconnection.
It's like you don't want to use it as a crutch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so here I've created a couple tips for people.
Because the crutch helps me walk.
Right.
Alcohol severely limits that.
Exactly.
That's quote unquote Mitch Hedberg.
So the first one, as we talked a little bit before, don't get drunk in front of your children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you might want to wait until you have that vacation with the boys, your buddies, or just wait for a time when your kids are not around.
Yeah.
If you're going to go on an overnight or your kids are away from the house or whatever, and you want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But acting belligerent, being drunk, and them seeing you in that state, no bueno.
Oh, of course.
And that is a translation meaning no good.
Thanks, Jason.
I speak Spanish.
You do. You hablo a little Espanol.
Poquito.
That's interesting because, and you said belligerent, which made me laugh because I haven't used that word in a while, but I like that word. And it's interesting, what kind of a drinker are you is also a huge factor in it. But I do believe what you're saying is like, don't do it. It's just don't get drunk around, especially around them. If it's late at night and you somehow get you got 2 or 3 in you and you're like, all right, maybe I should slow down. I could maybe accept that. But if you're like you said, belligerent and drunk right in front of them, that's...
Well, and there's certainly when you have younger kids and you have a responsibility of some kind.
Yeah.
I just recall, nope, I'm not going to drink, like in certain situations, because it was I had a baby, I had to take care of him, especially if it was like I was the only one watching my child.
Yeah.
There's just those kinds of things. You have to be responsible in that way. But you definitely, as they mature, you don't need to get drunk in front of them and try to avoid that.
Right.
They don't need to see what it's like. It's just not a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's kind of weird that I even have to say this, but never get behind the wheel of a car when drinking.
Right.
Or be a passenger with somebody who's drinking. Now, be sure that your child sees that. And so that's something I actually have pointed out to my kids, where when we went to, let's say, a dinner or I went to a party and I may have had a couple beers, my wife, who doesn't drink, and like, why is mom driving? And I said, well, because I had something to drink. I had a beer.
Yeah.
And so like being very clear about that. And then also there's no excuses anymore with all of the rideshare services.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, or if you can't get to one location, then don't drink.
Yeah.
But it's so important to show them that you are making those decisions. And the fact is like, even if I had one drink, if my children are around, I'm not taking the key. It's just, and they'll be like, and they have asked, and in the past, it's like, because I normally drive when our whole family goes together.
Yeah,
it's like, why is mom driving? Well, because I had something to drink.
Yeah.
And so it's being very clear about that so they can see that example. And that's what it's important. So you want to communicate the rules about drinking and driving, of course, but then you have to do it.
Right.
You have to show them. And number 3, and this is where I was going back to the celebration part. Number 3, don't make alcohol a requirement for having fun. So that your children see that. I should go back. If you're requiring drinks at every event, and I see this all the time, where, all right, let's go to the beach. All right, well, let's pick up some beer. Or hey, we're gonna all hang out, blah blah, at the pool. Well, okay, grab some beer.
Yeah.
But it's like every event involves alcohol.
Yeah.
And with children, children are involved, or we're getting together with families or whatever, and you see that all the time.
Right.
So try not to require drinks at every event, and so maybe create some fun activities that don't involve alcohol.
Sure.
And plan those activities with your child so that they don't associate that every time you guys have fun, it involves drinking.
Right.
And because that's what we're doing here is we're not limiting or I should say, we're not eliminating the fact that we do it.
Right.
We're saying if we're going to do it, we need to be responsible about it as parents.
Sure.
And we need to be able to communicate with them and show them responsibility. So that's the important part.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't drink. It's not that you can't do certain things, but you have to show these kids responsibility because they're going to see it as they grow up.
Yeah, emulate it. Yeah.
To make those decisions.
Right.
And then the fourth thing, make it no big deal. So what I mean by this is if you are using alcohol to relax, like I said, coming home from work, you're like, oh man, I could use a beer. Or for any other reason, whatever the reason is, keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant is, don't be saying I could really use a drink or whatever. Just keep that to yourself. You might think that, and that's okay for you, but don't communicate that out loud to your children.
Have you ever had a situation where someone asks you why you're drinking? Like a kid, I mean. Yeah,
probably. Yeah. No, I mean, it's.
I mean, not like you were belligerent drunk or whatever. I can't even imagine that from you. But like, but So,
I've never.
I don't even touch the stuff. Is it
just don't look at those pictures from?
Right. Yeah. Don't get on my Instagram, please.
The millennium was crazy.
Someone would be like, why do you drink beer? Like just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've definitely had questions of like, well, why do you drink it or such? And whether it has been for taste or I enjoy, certain parts. That's a good question though. I'm trying to think of a really good way on the fly to answer that.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I will. Well, I like to relax and I celebrate, which is completely counteractive to what we're trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know that I would want to say that.
Yeah. I'm curious like how to phrase it. It's like, it's just something that adults do.
I wanted.
Or, I just wanted this and it's something it's an adult beverage and, adults drink these things. And when you get older, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. When you're 36, you can have one. So you just don't want to make it a big deal so that, if you are having a beer with dinner, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That according to experts and other people, it's like, the fact that you are not making it a big deal. It is just, and I think sometimes in some cultures that is what it is part of you're with a meal or you have friends together, you get a pint. Like it's not this huge celebratory or requirement in those things. It's just something like, hey, no, we're just having a beer. Like
the whole thing about the European standard is that they get indoctrinated to it pretty early, and it's not a big deal, and there's less alcoholism there because they don't make it a big deal. Something they know how to control.
Do you know that for a fact? That
I'm speculating.
Okay.
Well, I've heard.
Yeah. I've heard that too. I don't know, but
I don't know statistically. I mean, I remember you growing up and people saying that, and actually that was studies.
It had been back in the 70s.
Not that old. We're the same age, fool. But it is one of those things. I was just curious. Is that if
we have any European listeners that can give us some insight on that, maybe they know the rate of alcoholism versus. I can go look that up too.
Yeah,
there's this amazing thing called Google now.
I want listener feedback. I don't want Google.
Well, if they want to tell us, what should they do?
They could email us at podcast@deuceofdads.com.
That's right. That's what they can do.
Exactly.
So if anybody has any feedback and you're from Europe and you have some ideas that of maybe it's a little bit different of what's here in the States, but I think you're right. Overall, we're not going to make it a big deal.
Right. And
the attitude towards it may then cause less people to become addicts or dependent on it or something. And kids are sponges. They hear and they see everything. And I'm going to assume that anybody listening to us and any dad doesn't want their child to have a problem with alcohol.
Right.
It's not a good thing. So I think while how you deal with alcohol isn't the only factor that determines the fate of your child's relationship with alcohol, it is a really big factor
for sure.
And how we associate it and how we treat it. So I just think as fathers, we owe it to our children to be responsible and to teach responsibility.
Right.
So that's what I think.
Absolutely.
So you let everybody know about emailing us. What else should they do if they want to get in touch with us?
They can hit us up on social media, Twitter @DeuceOfDads, Facebook, DeuceOfDads.com. Please go to YouTube and watch the Dad University videos and the Deuce of Dad stuff on there as well. A lot of great stuff. And even better, subscribe to that channel and subscribe to the iTunes and or Stitcher and or wherever the podcast
Lots
is
of reviews
being hosted.
Too. We need those reviews.
Yeah, please do. It really helps perpetuate the show when you leave those reviews and you subscribe to the channel. So if you can go ahead and do us a favor there, we'll be greatly appreciated.
That was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one.
It's a pleasant week.
No, it's an important topic.
Should we get a beer?
And with that, we will see you next week.
See you next week.